What's up, everybody? I am back today with Mariano Gomez, DGP Blogster. What's up, bro? How you doing?
What's going on, John? How's everything going with you? I'm here in Portland, Oregon, just a little south of you,
Man,
enjoying the Power Platform World Tour
awesome.
this
You're
week.
like real close by.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heck
How's
yeah.
everything going with you?
I'm doing okay, man. I just had to cancel some travel. My back is still a piece. But good news is I got some surgery coming up in January, and so hopefully we'll get this all fixed up.
Not fun, but everything crossed for you.
That's right. Thank you,
Yeah,
man. Thank you.
no worries, man.
All right, so today, man, this is a big video. This is literally since the announcement, I have been asked at least 100 times to make this video. And so Mariano, man, I put the call out. You said I will do it. And so today, Mariano's here to introduce us to UI flows, which you've all been waiting for.
Yes.
I'm so excited, man. I'm so excited.
I'm psyched too, and I just want to do a quick promo. I have a little bit more of an advanced video on my YouTube channel, so you'll put that right down there for them.
Yep.
And just go visit my channel. I have tons more detail from what we're gonna cover today, but I'm sure this will be super psyched for everybody. So I'm ready for it.
All right, so Mariano, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away. Introduce yourself real quick for those viewers who may not know you, and then the floor is yours to do a UI flows introduction.
Yeah, thank you, John. Again, my name is Mariano Gomez. I'm a Microsoft Business Applications MVP, 12 years running now. So it's been quite a while for me. And, I'm always all about community. And this is why we do these things. So I hope you enjoyed this video and, catch you around any of these conferences that I like to attend, whether that's Summit, whether that's one of the world tours, and certainly here on John's channel. So
On YouTube, heck yeah.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
All right, so let me share my screen, John, and we're gonna get started with UI flows. I kind of understand you want to cover some basics. If you see your face here, don't be shy. We will talk about some of the things we'll be doing.
Okay.
So I want to start by first and foremost walk through how you get started, because I think that's what a key aspect of making the best out of UI flow and understanding the premise behind it.
Yep.
So the first thing is, how do we get started with UI flow? And I think that's the critical aspect of it.
Definitely.
The first thing I want to call your attention to is the on-premise data gateway. The on-premise data gateway is actually needed in order to gain access from the cloud to your desktop. Whether by desktop you understand a server machine, whether by desktop you understand a laptop, whatever form factor you're trying to address, that on-premise data gateway must be installed on that machine.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so there's also another requirement. You also got to make sure you be running the November 2019 release of the on-premise data gateway. So if you're running any older version, I want to make sure that it's clear that you got to be on that November version. Okay. And that is key. Basically, if you go to the on-premise data gateway page here on Microsoft Docs, John will be putting a link to that as well down on the video. It has very specific instructions on how to get that gateway installed. So don't be afraid. It's a very step-by-step detailed instructions on how to do that. If you're already running any of the previous versions of the gateway, for you, it's going to become a simple update. And I want to make sure that, I pointed out those steps. So if you're also on the download page on Microsoft, you can simply type on-premises data gateway and it will find that download for you as well. You can download from that page. If you're a Power BI user and you're familiar with the on-premise data gateway, just apply the update. That should also work. But the bottom line is, once you download the gateway, you will end up with a simple gateway install.exe application, which you need to run on your machine or wherever that server is to basically get the gateway components installed. Obviously, this is not a session on installing the gateway, but at the end of the day, you're going to end up with basically this little applet that communicates your on-premise systems with Microsoft Azure Service Bus, which is where the communication between the cloud and your machine resides. The other thing here to keep in mind is, I like to point this out for those that are security conscious, you have the ability to actually make this an HTTPS connection. So if your concern is part of your concern, know that you have the ability to create a connection via HTTPS with the Azure Service Bus. So again, that's probably enough coverage of the gateway.
Okay.
Once you have completed your gateway installation, the next thing is you want to ensure you download the UI Flow applet or components. There's also a browser extension. That browser extension basically allows UI flows from the Flow Design Studio to communicate with via the gateway with your desktop. Basically, allow you to record the different actions that you're going to be performing on that desktop.
Okay.
So there are a couple extensions. There's one for desktop applications, so I want to make sure that that's clear as well. And there's another one for browser-based applications. So if your application is a browser-based application or a web application, there will be a Selenium installation for that, a Selenium IDE component that you need to install that also gets registered with your browser. And if you're running a desktop application, well, that's the traditional probably Win32 type environment where you want to work, to record certain type of applications. You can do that as well. So, but the bottom line is, once you download that, you will end up with a setup.microsoft.flow.ui flow, that exe application. That if you double click that application, run it, is then going to install a browser extension for you. And there's a couple ways to know that it's installed. One, of course, is going to your control panel. You should see a UI Flow's preview entry in that list of applications. But also, you want to make sure you go to your browser extension. And in this particular case, I'm using Edge, so Edge Chromium. So this basically, you would type in Edge ://extensions, or you can go to the ellipsis button over here and go to the extensions menu item, and that should basically show the extensions that are installed on your browser. Awesome. So once that is done, once you've identified that the extension is installed, you also want to make sure it's active. Some browsers like Chrome perhaps don't activate the extension automatically. I noticed that in some cases, your Edge browsers does not activate it automatically. So you want to make sure that this guy right here is on once you install the extension. So nice. Those are the two things I wanted to point out. Your gateway installation, very critical to the implementation. Your extension installation, also very critical to the implementation, to have those two things functioning properly before you get started with any UI Flow, activity in your environment. Okay. Cool. So once you have those two things in place, the next thing you want to do is visit your traditional Power Automate homepage, right? So this is my homepage. This is what it looks like if you type in flow.microsoft.com, whatever environment you're in, whatever locality you're in, it will basically pop the right homepage for you. So in order to get started, you probably want to go to My Flows. I would love to see an entry here in the menu, by the way, John, if you're taking notes. But for now, you can go to My Flows and click on UI Flows preview. That's where you will basically see your UI Flow entries. I already have a UI Flow that I recorded, but John actually wanted to put me on this spot and have me create one from scratch, something very basic that that we could do.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good to show people I just want to show one step, right? We're going through the basics here of the install. And so I thought it would be good for them to just kind of watch you actually go through the motions of what does it take to put one of these together. Because from here on out, after you get the install done, I was actually very surprised the first time I saw the experience and how easy it kind of is once you've got the nuts and bolts all in place.
Yep. So we're gonna make a simple one, right?
Yep.
And by the way, this is true for either a simple UI flow versus a complicated one. The steps are absolutely the same. So I have our friend Notepad here, and I'm gonna just make it write "Hello World" in this interface. So you know, that's our typical Microsoft type demos where you have a "Hello World" type application. That's what we're gonna do with UI flows today.
Love it.
So the first thing you want to do is you want to click here on New. And again, remember that you have two types of UI flows that you can create. You can create a desktop app, which is typically compatible with Windows 10 machines, running 64-bit operating systems, and make sure that you can automate anything from a Win32 application or any type of application that runs in that environment.
All right.
But you also have a web type app where you can launch a browser like Edge or Chromium, or Chrome, and you can drive any type of web interface. So for that, remember that you need the Selenium extension on your browser, just as how we need the desktop extension here, we need the Selenium extension for this one. And that's available from the page that I previously pointed out.
Cool.
So for now, we're gonna do a desktop app, right? And I'm gonna click next here, okay?
Yep.
The first thing that you are presented with is the option to enter a name for your UI flow. So I'm just gonna say this is our Hello World flow. So the next thing here, I'm gonna click next. And this is actually very interesting because you have the ability to add inputs to your UI flow. And the way you use those inputs is pretty simple. Those inputs are actually, think of them as variables, containers that you can pass information from, say, your typical Power Automate flow into your UI flow that then automates the actual application that you're trying to automate. So,
and so it practically then what that means is I could have a flow that reads, Excel files out of my email, takes a certain column of data, and then writes that over to a legacy system with a UI flow.
that is correct. So that is actually very cool because then you can use those inputs to, for example, if you have, say, for example, an old CRM type system, or if you have a legacy IBM client or some kind, you can definitely automate some of those things with these input variables. So think of inputs as the ability to add that information that is coming in through this UI flow to various other applications that you're trying to automate. So yeah, that's a good example.
Love it.
So here, all we need is a label. So our label, I'm just gonna call this label variable. Why not? Label input, right?
Okay.
And the one thing that UI flow needs is a sample data that will allow it to basically say, hey, I think I know what type of data you're trying to pass in.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna put here, hello world, right? And even with an exclamation point, so that's pretty good. And then we'll have an input description for it. So this is simply the label we're gonna use.
Okay.
Okay, so this is, your human readable type thing.
Yep.
All right, the next thing now is I'm gonna click next here. And this is where the magic happens, right? If Microsoft Power Automate has, if Microsoft Power Automate flows have a trigger action and a set of actions that follow, well, the same concept applies here. You have a trigger action, which is basically starting that flow, and you have this main action here, which is the record app action.
Okay.
And this one is the one that allows us then to launch the recorder, right? And the
Yep.
recorder is nothing more than that extension that we installed. It's basically a little applet that is part of the extension that we installed previously. So if I click launch recorder here, it's gonna go through the motions and then it brings up this little applet here. Okay.
All right.
So if I click record, now I'm in the process of actually recording all the actions that are subsequent to Power Automate, right? So I'm gonna click here, which is my Notepad application. And what you will see me do, see now that I clicked on the surface, it activated that area, it's highlighting it in blue, letting me know that that the surface is active for me to type in.
Love it.
I'm just gonna click hello world here, or type hello world, sorry. You know, sometimes it's hard to type and talk at the same time. I keep saying that in every video, but you know, it's kind of true. The next thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna stop my recording. This is how easy this is. Done. Okay?
Yep.
Now, what I'm gonna do, John, is I'm gonna go back to the actual design surface, and if you see here now, it tells me that I have an untitled notepad script that I just created. Okay.
Wow.
This is super cool because then now at this point, what it does is it recorded the steps that I did. So for example, if I click on this launch untitled, what you will see it does here is it will show me that it basically launched the application, and right now it's set to true or yes. But I can also choose not to launch that application if all I want to do is have an active application all the time. So you don't end up with, you know, 1,000,001 copies of this application open on your desktop.
Nice.
All right. The next thing I did was I click on that design surface. So it basically and now this is the mind-blowing aspect of this. It shows you screenshots embedded in the actual action that you did of what you tried to perform.
Wow.
And that is a super cool guide for all citizen developers out there that are trying to do this on their own, because now you actively seeing exactly what you did.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
So the next thing I did here, if you notice, is I probably double clicked. Why not? I don't know.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I clicked twice on the
Just to
same.
make sure you're there.
Yep, just to make sure I was there.
Yep.
And you can choose to remove these steps. Nothing prevents you from doing that, but I'm not going to do that because this is the first time I'm trying this on this particular thing since you put me on the spot.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that this is going to work.
All right.
The next thing here is there was a whole bunch of send key entries that were created, right? Well, this is exactly what I typed in. If you can see here, you can kind of follow that I press the shift key, type in hello, then I had to correct it, whatever. But that's not what. Look what I just did. I'm gonna delete this entry, and this should be familiar to all our Power Automate flow makers out there, because this is exactly a content, a dynamic content that showed the input that I set up previously in the previous step. So I'm just gonna just select this.
Nice.
And hit save here. By the way, you could add an action to close the application again, so you don't end up with several copies of it. You can add that action here. In the interest of time, I'm just gonna keep it short.
Okay.
Know that can be done, and you don't have to have multiple copies of this application open. That is critical, except if you kind of recording steps for things like systems that have sensitive data. You want to make sure that those applications close at the end of your UI flow. Just again, another cool tip I would think from using this.
That's a great tip. That's a really great tip.
So I'm just gonna click save here. And the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click next once this becomes active. So this is another cool feature because you have the ability to also set up outputs. Now, I am not gonna define any for this particular case, but what outputs allow you to do is think of it as those containers, again, variables containers that you can use to record the outcome of something and store it somewhere.
Awesome.
In a way that you can pass this back to an actual Power Automate flow if you wanted to. And
so like practically, you know, an example that you could use is, for instance, I could say, every time that this gets run, whatever that variable is that's dropped in, like if it was powered by some other form or something, in essence, what you could do is scrape that data out and then collect it. So not only can I use the automated system to put data in, I can actually define areas to take data out.
Yep. A simple example of that is if you have two Excel cells that produce some sort of calculation and some sort of result, you can scrape that result off and move that into, say, a third-party application with UI flows and flow. So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
super cool.
Man,
I
so
mean,
many possibilities.
kudos to you guys. You guys did a phenomenal job with this stuff. So the next thing I'm gonna do here is click next. And now I can test my flow.
All right.
Now this is very cool because, and let me close Notepad because I want to show how this thing works from the very scratch without anything in place.
All right.
So if I click or type here "Hello World" again.
This time though, you got to put 2 exclamation points
So
that we
multiple
know.
exclamation points.
Yeah.
So you know how excited we are about this stuff, right?
That's right.
And if I click test now, and this works as expected, then that should actually launch Notepad and do the typing for us. So over here, we can see that Notepad was launched.
Yep.
And by the way, while this is executing, you don't want to interrupt it. You don't want to do additional clicks of any kind. So, this is what we're doing now. So look at that. So you should go ahead and type "Hello World" for us at some point.
Yep. You're on hotel Wi-Fi, and we're waiting for the demo gods.
Yeah, one thing that I want to clarify is a little bit of the architecture behind this is the reason for those delays is it basically captured the actual delays that you spend or the time cycles that you spend between doing things. So there is a way to refine that, but that's like UI flows 202, and that probably is something that I can do on a subsequent video. But as you can see here, this was run fine.
Yep.
But one thing to call your attention to quickly is all of these inputs have a defined wait after action. You can start playing as a maker. You can start playing with those elements in your UI flow, and maybe you can shorten those period of time. So again,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So go ahead and pull up Notepad there for us so we can see it.
That's absolutely correct. Let's go ahead and pull up Notepad. So now we can see that this was done very nicely for us. Type "Hello World" and we're good to go.
Multiple exclamation points.
Correct. So here are some ideas for some of you who have been asking about certain features, like being able to convert a Word document to a PDF or an Excel document to a PDF. Yes, we know there are some actions inside of Power Automate that can do that for you. But if you want to go the old-fashioned way, where you go to File, Save As, blah, 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 you can use UI flows to do that kind of conversion for you. Yep. Right? Certain document types are not supported by the actions that are available in Power Automate. So why not use the native capability of the application to do the Save As for you? Select the correct conversion format that you want to use for it, whether that's PDF or any other type, and just run with it.
Totally.
Okay? So those are some ideas of things that you can do. But this was actually very fun. And the last thing you want to do is don't forget to save your UI flow. So you can always come back to this, edit it if you need to, add more actions, etc., etc., etc. So that's basically it.
Awesome.
This is what I wanted to show you today. If there's anything else you want to do additional to that, we can take it from here on, John. But I think that's what I wanted to present today.
All right, man. I think that's a great introduction. I think to recap, first thing you got to do is get the gateway. Second thing you got to do is install your plugins for Selenium for the web apps and the desktop recorder for desktop apps. And we're going to go ahead and make it easy. Check the description for those links. Once you have those done, you saw how easy it is. Just go ahead and experiment, play around, try and build UI flows to do silly things that make sense to you. You know what I'm thinking about? You know what's an idea for me, Mariano?
What's going on, brother? Let me know.
I think I might do like a video production workflow,
Ooh, that's pretty.
right? Apply
Yeah.
some color grading, apply some sizing, do some exporting. Who knows what's possible? All kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are if you are in the business world like I am, think about those applications where you spend time entering data back and forth. Sometimes you have 2, 3 apps open where you're typing in the same data. Those are opportunities for you to automate that process with UI flows.
Totally. All right,
Yep.
guys. Well, you know what to do. Go subscribe to Mariano's channel. He's got some links down in the description. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Click that like button. I know that this is going to be useful to a lot of people. And last but not least, go ahead and leave some comments about what you'd like us to do next with UI flows. All right, guys. That's it. Much love from both of us. See you in the next one.